So I've got a 1997 Ford F250, and I need to put a new stereo in it. And I'd like to be able to hook up a backup camera and actually have Bluetooth connectivity as well. They don't really have much in the lines of a single din. They have a few, but some of them have the pop-out screens on them, and they look pretty cheap. And I'm just worried about basically bouncing down the road and the hinge letting loose on the screen. So, anyways, I found this kit that's made by Metra, and it takes a single din stereo slot and makes it into a double din. Let's see if I can flip this around. I'll have you have a look at this. Hang on. So here it is here. This is the Metra kit. And there's the part number on it. I know it says F150, but they're all the same on the dash. And there's the whole kit. And as you can see from the picture, you got to do a little cutting on the dash, but then this bezel makes everything fit real nice. And do yourself a favor and buy yourself one of these kits as well. I actually have not taken this single din stereo out yet, so I don't know what exactly I've got in behind there, but if the wires aren't butchered, then I bought these plugs to plug it in with, and that way we can go from there, and it's all ready to go. So this is what everything looks like here. I haven't taken anything off yet. This piece here needs to come off. Stereo needs to come out. This bezel down here needs to come off. And then basically what you're going to do is you're going to cut through here down to here. This will still be able to mount in behind it, but it's going to open up this whole area here, so a double din will fit right in there. And then the bezel lays over the top and goes all the way out and around here. And we'll also need to cut this this center piece here. I'll lose the XLT badge unless I can figure out a way of sliding it all the way down to this way. And yes, as you can tell, this is a right-hand drive. I am in Australia, and so it's all been converted over. So there you go. I've also got some other things that I'll make a video on later for what I'm going to do down there, because I don't smoke. I don't need the ashtray, so I'm going to put in some USB plugs in there, and also a couple of cigarette lighter plugs as well in there, but that'll be in another video that I do. This is my first video, so yeah, please bear with me. I'm sure I'll mess up some things along the way. Anyways, let's see what we can do here. This is not going to be easy either. I've never tried doing this with with a phone in my hand. Get this stuff out of the way. Be real careful with these because they do snap fairly easily. And obviously somebody snapped one off there before and just used some Sikaflex to hold it on. Looks like the rest of them are actually in pretty decent shape, except for one there on the end. Anyways, that's not too bad. So again, you see here, so this is where it'll be cut through here, and then this bezel here will not be used that goes around here, because the new one, the new bezel here comes all the way down. As you can see right here, it comes all the way down there, so that'll be one whole new unit. From what I've seen, I've only seen one other video online that actually showed this kit, and it looked like a pretty straightforward install. So that's basically what I'm hoping on for here. I don't even have my stereo yet to put in it, but I want to see what all is going to be involved here yet. Hopefully the delivery guy shows up today with my new new stereo for it. I've had the kit for a while now, and just one thing leads to another, and I never ordered my stereo. So there's that bezel off. So as you can see, there is quite a bit of room in there by the time you take out this centerpiece, which will just be a matter of a few little cuts there and go from there. The one I did see online, it looked like, or the video that he's seen online, this unit here didn't look the same. It looked like it had different ears on it. So anyways, we'll have to see. I'll have to hold up the bezel and see what that looks like. So, taking the bezel out of the packaging and just getting a rough idea. That's pretty much what it's going to look like. And like I said, from the videos I've seen, it actually fits pretty snug around the dash there, which we'll find out once I take this center section out. But yeah, and it looks like it matches pretty well. Don't mind the crack in the dash cover there. Eventually I'll get a new one there, because it looks like they've cracked it up pretty good there along the side when they did the conversion. And there we are. So here's with the heater and air conditioner controls pulled out of the way. Simple 4 bolts. Here's the stereo out, which surprisingly enough, they've got a massive amount of wiring in there, so that's great that I don't have to worry about short wiring. But yeah, anyways, so looks like they've done a bang up job here with some of this tape. Anyways, and then the stereo has a bracket on it here. But this bracket here slides into this rail back here. Now I did see in the one other video that I saw, the guy said that if it had that bracket in there, that bracket will probably need to be removed, which is okay by me. It's not a huge deal. Looking in there, and I was a bit concerned because the stereo that I wanted was not a I forget what they call it. It's not a thin stereo. It's a full sized. Lengthwise, it's not a short one, but there's a heap of room in there, so I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. And then here's the instructions that comes with it. Just tells you basically how to tear everything apart there. The only other instructions is this right here. The grayed out area is obviously the place that you need to cut out. I'm not exactly sure why you need that notch on the left hand side there, but I guess I'll sort that out when the time comes. And then there's the section you need to cut out of your trim panel. And there's how everything attaches. The other brackets that are in there that attach beside the stereo. And then there's the bezel. And I don't know exactly how this holds together, because the only thing I see on the back side of the bezel are these little tabs that are down at the bottom, which is what it's showing here. And the only other thing it has on the top is these little brackets here, which clip into the other brackets that are on the side mounts. This bit right there, that top bit there. So this bolts to the side of the stereo, and then I'm guessing that clip right there clips into this side right here on the bezel itself. So I don't know. The only other thing I can think of is if the stereo itself, the weight of the stereo itself, keeps the top pulled in. I don't know. That's just going to be something that I have to see once I get this all done. But like I said, I don't have the stereo just yet, so I can't do that. I just wanted to. I've had this kit for several months now, and with everything else going on, I thought, well, I got some time on my hands. I'm going to pull some of this apart, and at least that way I've got an idea when the stereo comes what I've got I've got in store for me. And basically that's about it for the moment. I don't really want to cut that dash completely out just yet, not until I actually have a stereo to put back in it. But then I'll have to look up a wiring diagram online so I'm able to use my, wherever I did with them. Oh, here. Alright, so upon further investigation, when I pulled all this massive wire loom out, well, then I did find connectors here and here. And I was trying to sort everything out, and I traced everything back, and there is an amp. So these wires that plug in here, this cable's right here, and this one that's back here, are the two that are wired in and come up to these connections here and here, which is great because that means that I can use my connectors that I got, and I might actually be able to bypass that amp. I'm not exactly sure, because I've heard horror stories about these factory amps that they don't work with some of the aftermarket stereos, and I got at least one of my speakers has a weird tone to it, so I don't know if that's actually the speaker or the fact that this amp doesn't work properly with it. But anyways, that was a quick little update there. That nice to know that I found out that this big chunk of wire here can be removed once I sort out how far back in it goes. Alright, so my stereo finally arrived. I just got the Kenwood head unit. You can get any head unit you want. This had some pretty nice features where I can have multiple cameras installed, and also I can pair up either an Apple phone or an Android phone. And since my wife and I have one of each, that was quite nice. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm just test fitting the stereo into the bezel. And what that's going to allow me to do is on the side here, it's going to allow me to be able to see where I need to attach these brackets, since there's so many different mounting options on the side. That way I can mount those exactly where I want them before I actually install the bezel. And once I get that all done, then I will start cutting away at the hole there in just a few minutes. Alright, so after test fitting the stereo into the bezel and being quite happy with the way that fit, I went ahead and cut out the section. I didn't film it while I cut it out because, again, I'm doing this with my phone, so it's kind of hard to hold the phone. And alright, so I was able to, I had to cut this bracket to get it out because the screw that was in the front here went in this direction here, but it was like up underneath part of this dash. If I would have taken this pad out here, I probably could have gotten to it, but that pad is actually secured really well, so I was afraid that I'd end up breaking some clips off because everything gets kind of brittle, so I thought I'll just leave it and cut it out. Anyway, so that's out of the way now. Now I see here why they say to cut at an angle on this piece right here, because of this bracket here. Let me see how it's got to slide back in there, and this mounting point here goes back there where the heater controls bolt to. So I'm going to have to trim that out on both sides. It seems to fit pretty snug in there from side to side, which is good. So yeah, so I'll give that a little trim up there and we'll see how we go. Alright, now one thing I did notice is for left-hand drive versus right-hand drive, if you look at this corner down here, you can see that rounded radius there, and this one's pretty much squared off. So I have to make that corner look like that corner because it's rubbing on the dash. I'll show you exactly what I mean after I trim this down. Alright, Alright, so now I've trimmed it down. So you can see how that's curved more now. Kind of looks like this side. Basically just took a grinder, just rounded it off. You're pretty much not going to see it anyways, because the way it's going to fit in here. Well, what was happening before, and I may still need to trim more off, is this edge here. It was pushing it out at an odd angle because it was coming right straight down, and I think I might have to take a little more off there. But yeah, I'm gonna have to take a little bit more off. Looks like it's gonna be a nice gap there, though. That's why I'd prefer to take a little off at a time, just to make sure I still got a nice gap. Anyways, and you can see here how this little bracket fits in here now. I'll pull this back out and give you a better look, but I had to trim this all the way over to here to get that to sit back in there. It sits close to being flush. And another thing that it doesn't really, there we go, sorry, it wasn't all the way in. It is flush now. One thing that they don't tell you in the instructions is this actually sits over the top. I was trying to put it in behind, and I couldn't even get the bezel to sit on there because the stereo sat back in too far. So it's actually meant to sit over the top. But anyways, all right, let me trim this a little more and we'll get this fit up. Sorry, just to do a quick peek here once I had the stereo back out again. So you can see how I had to cut this side out. Whereas to begin with, I cut it pretty much right straight down, so it was right straight in line with this back here and right straight up. Well, I had to notch it out that far in order to get it to sit in there properly. This side I didn't have to do as much. I just trimmed it a little bit wide there. I think I'm actually going to take a little bit more of this bottom bit off here, just to make sure that the tabs on the side actually go all the way down in when I screw it in there completely, which I haven't done yet. So all right, there we go. All right, I think I am ready to get everything installed now. So I'll have you have a look at this mess. All right, all these wires here, these two were the ones that were connected to the factory amplifier, which I figured being a 97, it was probably a hell of a lot worse than the amplifier that's built into the new stereo. So this whole wiring harness here, I was able to gut this whole thing out. That was obviously the one that plugged into the stereo, and these were the two other ends that plugged into the wiring harness here. So I was able to use my connections that I had bought. I soldered everything together. Use shrink wrap. This shrink wrap got a little too hot on me and I burned it, so I couldn't put another one on, so I had to black tape that one. But the rest of them all shrink wrapped, ready to go. And here's the other one. These two are not used. One is a mute. I don't even know why you would have that, but anyways. And then the other one is for steering wheel controls, which I do not have. So yeah, there we go. Also, my rear camera, this was the mount that was in it when I got it, and it's a pretty crap little screen. It's small, so I'm going to use these connections here to plug right directly into the back of the stereo from the rear camera, and we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so there's the giant gaping hole there, but yeah, anyways, let's get this all put together and see how it looks. Alright, and there's everything in. Like I said, that's got a really nice fit to it along the top. It sits in there really nice. I think this big gap here, but that's because those bottom two tabs, I got to get a Dremel tool, which I don't have one at the moment. I got to get a Dremel tool, I think, and because it's let me see, it's kind of bowing this whole thing up like this because it's putting too much pressure on it there. So I need to just drill some little tab holes here so those little tabs can actually sink into that, and that'll allow this to go back. You don't even notice it on the other side over there by the dash. That all looks good. So yeah, it's a bit fiddly, but I tell you what, it's well, I think it's well worth it to be able to put in a double din in an old style truck like this and make it a bit more modern.